Hey, restaurant pros, are you struggling with the current labor shortage that we're dealing with, which is hopefully at the tail end of the pandemic? Are you like many restaurants who just can't seem to get people to show up for interviews, let alone actually show up to work? Did you know that cutting labor could be your answer? Stick around and I'll share with you what an easy trick to cutting labor during a labor shortage looks like. I'm David Scott Peters, restaurant expert, coach, and creator of the Restaurant Prosperity Formula. I've been coaching restaurant owners since 2003, and I'm really glad you're here to learn. Let's talk about how you can hopefully reduce the stress of your labor shortage on your restaurant by actually cutting labor. Hey, before I get into that, if you like tips like this, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and oh yeah, hit that bell so you're notified when my next video tip comes out. And for more tips and tricks running a profitable restaurant or to hear restaurant owner success stories, make sure you tune into my podcast, Restaurant Prosperity Formula, found on all the popular podcasting services. Look, I'm going to make two assumptions when I share this tip with you. And that is, one, you have a point of sale system, and two, you know your average ticket per person, food and beverage combined and individually. What I'm about to share with you is a down and dirty version of something called dollars per labor hour worked. To be able to fit this into a quick video, an easy tip, I'm going to teach you how it's done for the kitchen alone. First, your first step, run a sales report for food sales only that's broken down by hour for each day of the week. Note that some POS systems break it down into 15-minute increments, so you're going to want to change your math if that's the case for you. Second step, run an hour-by-hour labor report for all kitchen positions, cooks, prep cooks, and dishwashers. We're going to get to see how many hours were worked in each one of those hours, if you will. Your third step is line them up on a spreadsheet. Your sales by hour and the hours worked by hour right next to each other. See, now that you have a spreadsheet with the total hours worked by hour, right, in the kitchen alone, and its corresponding sales by the hour, you're going to divide that into your sales, right? You're going to take your hours divided into your sales to come up with your dollars per labor hour worked. For example, between the hours of noon and 1, you had 5 cooks on the line. So you would have on that time, that hour, you'd have 5 man hours worked. Well, next to it, you're going to have $500, say, in food sales that were done in that same hour. You're going to take 5 divided into 500, and you're going to come up with $100 per labor hour worked. That means the efficiencies is for each cook that was on the line, you produced an hour. In that hour, you produced $100 in sales. So since there were 5 of them, that's $500 in that hour. Now that you've got that, you've got to divide your dollars per labor hour worked, that $100. You need to divide that by your average food ticket. So let's say that's $20 per person. You would take $20 divided into $100 to come up with the number 5. What is the number 5? This represents how many entrees each person on the line, or each person in the kitchen, if you will, would produce in that single hour. What that means is, if in that hour we produce 5 entrees per hour, right, per person working, that'd be 25 in total. But the fact of the matter is, each person on that line, in theory, put an item on the stove, on the flat top, in the fryer, and watched it. Then they took it off the grill, they took it all out of the fryer, and they put it on a plate, put it up. And then they put another order on, and they did that, and they literally had plenty of time. They just watched 10 minutes go by at a time, if you will, and just did one thing at a time. Never pressed, never really busy. See, you're going to be able to see these things, and it gives you a common language with your chef or your kitchen manager when we start talking about efficiencies, because they're going to tell you they need the 5 cooks, and they very well need the 5 cooks. That is quite possible. But see, what happens is, when we look at that by hour by hour by hour, we may find another hour that they were doing $500 per labor hour worked, $1,000 per labor hour worked. And then we divide that by 20, and we see this number that's much higher, 15, 20, 30, 40 entrees an hour per person on the line, and we're crushing it. which is where most chefs or kitchen managers focus on, is that crush time where we absolutely need all 5 cooks, 7 cooks, 10 cooks, don't care what it is, on the line. But what happens is we look at those slower hours and go, holy crap, we're doing 2 entrees an hour, 5 entrees an hour. Maybe we can identify the times where we're slower and we can make a change. See, this is your final step. It's to identify those hours where your productivity is so low that you know you can start to stagger start your team members for each shift, or completely cut somebody from a shift because you can see every hour when you need somebody, how many people you'll need, because your efficiencies are either really high or really low. See, this is going to help you use your labor, the labor that you actually have, right? While still giving your guests the best experience possible. You're going to hone in and say, I can reduce hours from people, but still give them the same number of hours because I'm sharing it along the week in the right times. This is how we become more efficient. This is how we can start to do more with less people. Now I want to finish this with a big warning, and I want you to listen to this. If you're short-staffed because your workplace does not have a positive work environment, or your menu is too large and too complex, you have a much bigger problem, and cutting a few hours here and there is not going to be your answer. If you're tired of not being able to leave your restaurant because no one else knows how to run it, I want to make sure you know it doesn't have to be that way. You can leave your restaurant. It is possible to build a team of people who know how you want the restaurant to run with trained and responsible people in place. You can give yourself time away. What would you do if you had time away from your restaurant? Would you sleep better? Would your relationships improve? Would you feel more relaxed? These are all things you deserve to experience as a business owner. It's why we own our own businesses. If you would like to learn how to own a restaurant that doesn't depend on you to be successful, click the link in the description to watch a free video to learn exactly what you have to do. Also, be sure to subscribe to get my weekly tips and watch these 2 videos to get more information and guidance for running a successful restaurant.